When I was 20 years old, I was making $13 an hour wrapping sandwiches on a college bar street, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. I was dead broke. But fast forward 6 months later, and I was the top closer on the offer that I was working for, making 25K a month in straight commissions. And high ticket sales has completely changed my life, and I want it to change yours too. Sales is honestly one of the best skills that you can learn right now. First off, it's recession proof. With all the AI stuff going on right now, it's never going to be able to replace high ticket sales. And it's a skill that you will always have with you. Nobody can really take it away from you. And no matter what line of business that you get into, you're always going to be able to leverage the skill of sales. Now, in this video, I'm going to be going over exactly how you can get started with high ticket sales, the A to Z process, the ins and outs, literally everything that you need to make your first dollar online with this. And this is exactly how I've helped over 100 guys just like you get started with high ticket sales, making their first 5 to 10K a month online. So let's get into it. So what exactly is high ticket sales? Well, high ticket sales is essentially where you're selling a product or a service that is above $1,000. So it could be 1,000, it could be 5,000, it could be 10,000 or even $100,000. The point being, it's expensive, right? So essentially who you're going to be selling for is coaches, creators, SaaS, agencies, anywhere from the range of $2,000 to $50,000. That's pretty much what their offer or service costs. Or I guess like an offer in this case is relating to a product or service. And the people that are selling these products or services, Brez Skills, for example, Alex Eubank, Iman Ghazi, Alex Ramosi, all these big guys in the space that are selling high ticket products. So these people or these businesses have way more leads than they can even handle. So people are always wanting to buy their program, their coaching, their service. And the business owners are too busy, so they're always going to be desperate for skilled people, of course, to take on the leads and sell for them, right? So they can work on the business and not be in the business. That's where you come in. And how does this work specifically? Well, the first thing is that you're just going to message or call the leads. Obviously, they're coming in from somewhere and you're just reaching out to them. Obviously, they're coming to you because all the leads in high ticket sales are already interested. So you're just saying, hey, like what got you interested? Calling them, texting them, making sure they're qualified. So like, did they have the money for this? Do they have the time for this? Is this something they actually want to do? If so, of course, just book them on a call. Then you talk to them on the call. Then you kind of close the deal and the sale and what they're about to buy. You collect the payment, and then you just get a commission for the sale, which is anywhere from 5 to 15%. So first things first, obviously high ticket sales has a couple of different moving parts. So the first thing is going to be setters or settings. So this is where the sales process starts. So setters, either you can be a DM setter or you can be a phone setter. And your job is really just to ask questions, make sure that they're interested, qualify them, and then of course, get them to book a call with the closer, which I'll talk about in a second. So with DM setting, all you're really doing is just texting people on Instagram, right? Like this picture, for example, great example of how this works. So you're just going down this list, messaging people and seeing if this is something that they actually want to do. Now, if you're over the phone, you'll be on a CRM similar to this. It's just like a lead list. You see a bunch of names with phone numbers, emails, and you literally just call the people and say, hey, like what got you interested? Yada, yada, yada. Like, what are you kind of doing for work? Where are you at right now? Why are you wanting to get into this? And you're just going to be booking calls with a software called Calendly. It's super simple. All you're really doing is sending them a link. They click a time that works for them and bam, good to go. All of those booked calls that you have that are getting set by the setters go to the closer. And the closer is the one who's taking the sales call to close that deal down. So all they're doing is hopping on a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet, talking to the lead, pitching the offer, and collecting payment. Now, this is really the bread and butter of the industry. This is where you'll make a lot of money being at 10 to 15% commission, whereas setters are around like 5 to 7.5%. So you can make a lot of money doing this, but it is a lot more complicated than setting. But this is really what everyone strives for and what you should strive for ultimately, because it's very, very scalable. Now, for example, just to kind of dumb it down a little bit, you have a business owner. So the business owner is selling the service for $5,000. Then you are essentially coming in, you're like the middleman and you're closing the sales call and selling that offer for him. So you get paid 10% of whatever that deal is. So in this case, $5,000, you're essentially getting paid $500 for a 40-minute call. So for example, let's say you were actually on an offer selling. So like you took 5 sales calls in a day, you only closed 2 of those calls, that's $1,000 a day. If you do that for 30 days, you're printing fucking money, bro. So this model is very, very scalable, especially with closing. And this is literally happening right now. There are always closers and setters actively working, getting paid anywhere from 5, 10, 15, 20, $50,000 a month remotely from anywhere. And almost all high ticket products or high ticket businesses or online businesses are always going to be sold by sales reps. And just to give you an idea of how big this space really is, the online education market alone is going to surpass $300 billion in global revenue this year alone. Absolutely insane. So there's a ton of money to be made and there are opportunities everywhere. But you're probably asking, okay, cool, that's awesome. But like, how do I actually do it? Like, how do I work as a sales rep? So essentially, you can apply for offers in a couple different ways. So mainly what typically people will do is just cold DMs. So you're outreaching to the business owners via Instagram, TikTok, typically Instagram. And if you're hardworking, you're coachable, you have decent sales skills, you'll get on the offer, essentially asking the offer, hey, like, I'd love to work for you, all these great things. And then like a Loom video, I'll get into the Loom video in a second. And then you're good to go. Or you can apply through like a job board, through like a community. So like, for example, this picture is the job board that I have that I give to my students. And they would just, simply apply through the portal here. So that's really like the two main ways that you're going to get placed on an offer. Now, how do you actually apply though? And I know I mentioned Loom, so you're probably asking what that is. So Loom is essentially a 1 to 2 minute elevator pitch going over who you are, what you're about, what your experience is like, and why you should be hired on the offer. So this is literally what it would look like, this lady right here, talking to the camera, talking about herself, and why she'd be a good candidate. And you're pretty much going to have to do this for every single offer that you apply to. Now, nowadays, this is like a little nugget. A lot of offers are requiring custom Loom videos. So you have to say a specific word in the video or anything like that. You really want to go over and above and show the offer owners that you really are serious about getting on this offer specifically, like showing that you're putting in more effort. Because a lot of people will just copy and paste a Loom and send it to a bunch of different offer owners. It's really important that you get very niche down and you send them a customized video, because it shows them that you're, working a lot harder and not just simply following a couple directions. Now, so framework. So obviously, like, you can get on the offer, but how do you actually sell? Like, how do you actually make money? What does that process kind of look like? So when you're a setter, there's typically a framework that you'll always use. I mean, this is the one that I've always used. It's the most efficient, does all the heavy lifting for you, the prospect does, and all you're really doing is asking the right questions and making sure it's a good fit. And of course, genuinely trying to help them. So whenever you're setting, whether it be over the phone in the DMs or you're actually calling them, this is an 8-step framework that I'll typically use. So first things first, obviously breaking the ice. Very important, because a lot of people, especially if you're calling them, they're like, who the hell is calling me? Like, why the hell are you calling me? Like, I don't want you to waste my time. And they think they're being sold something. So it's always very important to like break the ice, lower that sales resistance. Yeah. I saw that. Hey, John, I saw that you filled out that quick form on getting into freelance brand scaling. Was that kind of like a mistake, or did you mean to do that? They're like, oh, no, I meant to do that. Right. And then you go, okay, well, why are you interested? So that bleeds into number 2. So getting the prospect's intent. So why are they interested? Why are they looking into something like this? Are they in the entrepreneurial space at all? It depends on whatever offer you're selling, right? But for example, like, let's say they're trying to make money online. So like, why are they looking into this? How long have they been looking into it for? Then you kind of go into discovery. So finding out more about their situation, their job, financial qualifiers, like, do they actually make money, or are they broke? Because if they don't have any money, unfortunately, you can't help them. It's not a matter of like, oh, this guy doesn't have any money that I can take from him. No, it's not like that at all. Like, if that person does not have money, they physically cannot buy whatever you are selling, and you can't help them, plain and simple. So figuring out, like, are they working? Are they in school? What are they kind of doing that's making them want to get into this? Then from there, you kind of want to dig into problems, because obviously if they're looking into something new, or they're looking to make money online, or whatever it is, there's always going to be a problem, right? They're always looking for a solution to something. So it's your job to uncover the problems, the pain, and make sure that not only you get the answer or the information, but they also realize it as well. Because a lot of people don't even realize that they have a problem. So it's very important that you bring that to the surface so they're aware of it. And that kind of ties into urgency. So if they have a problem, it's very important that they need to solve it now. Because, like, let's take like a smoker, for example. People, like, a lot of smokers know that they need to stop smoking. They don't really have any urgency. They know they have a problem, but there's not really a reason to stop. So it's very important that you tie in urgency to the pain building, because not only do they have a problem, but now they know that they need to do something about it now rather than later. So like highlighting the cost of inaction, for example, like if they wait 6 more months, or if they keep waiting, or if they never do it, just making sure that they're aware of that, making sure they're wanting to do it now. Then from there, you want to kind of get them involved emotionally in terms of like what it would look like if they actually did this, the success. So like painting the picture, setting like a goal. So like, where do they want to be in 6 months? Everything like that. What would their life actually look like? Very specific things. And then you want to create a gap. So obviously you know that the prospect has a problem. They know that they need to solve it now, and they know where they want to go. But there's a huge gap in between like the problems and the urgency versus like the goal that they have for themselves. So essentially the offer or the call that you're about to book them on is the solution or the next best step for them to actually move forward and get to that goal. So that's why this framework is so good, is because it just guides the prospect in a specific direction, ultimately just leads to them getting on the call, because it's just the next best thing. Like, why would they not do it? So like, I always tell my students, like, the best thing that you can always do is just make the person sound stupid for saying no to the call. Like, it should just be the next thing. It should be like, why would they not get on it? They're getting a ton of value. and everything like that. So that's typically how you would set an appointment. Like I said, via DMs or over the phone. You can use it either way. Tomato, tomato. Now for closing. So closing is a little bit more complicated. It's also a little bit more difficult. This is something that you'll get into eventually after kind of laying the foundations with setting, because this is essentially an extension of what I just went over. So obviously with closing, you'll be on a full-blown sales call. Like, you'll have the prospect in front of you. They can see you, you can see them. And it's very important that you use a very specific framework, because if you don't set the call frame very clearly, like which I'm about to get into in a second, then it's not really going to go anywhere. You're kind of just chopping it up with the dude. It's going to be very hard to like have a sense of direction to move them towards the close. Creates a bunch of problems. I think it's more of like a coffee chat, and you're kind of wasting your time. You make no money. So don't do that. So again, first things first, like breaking the ice, building rapport, very important to address the call. So like, hey, I like to keep these calls super, simple. Obviously, like, we're going to go over like how we can help you specifically. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, see where you're at with everything, and if this even makes sense, right? And then from there, we'll talk logistics at the end. If it does, if it doesn't, we'll send you on your merry way. Cool. That's essentially like what it would look like to set the call frame. They understand, hey, this is exactly what's going to happen. And then you're free to just ask all your questions. It's free real estate. But obviously, okay, so discovery again. So you want to figure out more about their situation. Maybe the setter kind of informed you a little bit. Hey, this is what this guy does. This is what he's about. So you can maybe even like mention that, hey, one of my guys actually told me a little bit about you. You said you were working like this job, or you're doing this. Great way to just instantly open the conversation. I do want to give you like a little bit of a nugget though. It's very important that you ask them a question like, what's kind of like the main motivator as to why you hopped on the call today? Like, why were you wanting to do this? Things like that. Just giving like a nice icebreaker. First good question, and then kind of get into the discovery. So it kind of sets the tone, right? So then you have something to go off of, if that makes sense. And then, so number 3, obviously digging into problems. So really finding out the deep reason as to why they're wanting to do this specifically, or solve the problem that you have, or that they have, excuse me. So probing deeper, peeling back the layers of the onion. So don't accept any surface level answers. Like, for example, if they say, oh, my job's kind of bad. It pays the bills. And then you kind of just go into the next question. No, don't accept that BS. Okay, well, why is the job bad? Okay, what specifically is kind of making you feel that way? Does that kind of stress you out? How long have you been dealing with that for? You see how many layers deep I'm going, right? And that's really going to get them to feel, hey, this is a problem. I need to solve it. And then tying that in with urgency again. So using double down questions. This is like another little nugget. So for example, why do you want to do this right now? I mean, realistically, you could wait another 6 months if you wanted to. And the brilliant thing about that question is you're literally giving them the easy way out. You're giving them that, hey, you can wait. No big deal. You don't have to. But the thing is, they're never going to take it. Even though as humans, we're biologically wired to always choose the comfortable route, you're giving it to them on a silver platter, and they'll never take it because it's not what they want. So really making them feel that cost of inaction, of not doing anything, because they're not going to get to where they want to be if they stay in the same spot. Then like some goal setting, for example, getting, again, like emotionally invested in obtaining the solution, that life that they want, that solving that problem, what that would do for them specifically, what their why is. So what is their big why? Why do they want to do this? Like, for example, if they want to make money online, I want to retire my parents, I want to buy my time back, I want to do all these specific things. You really want to find the main driving factors to why they want to do it, so you can leverage it later on if need be. And then kind of once you've created the gap as well on top of that, so we kind of mentioned that on the setting framework. So really highlighting the need for an offer specifically. So, or I guess the offer specifically. So for example, okay, what's stopping you from getting that goal? What's stopping you from solving that problem, doing it now, and then actually getting to those goals? They're probably going to tell you, I need guidance. I don't know what the next step looks like. I need somebody to paint the picture for me. I need someone to show me the way, help me hold my hand, everything like that. Then that's going to make it really easy for you to get into the pitch. But before you do that, you really want to make sure that they're actually committed and pre-handle any possible objections, because some people will say, oh, I'll get into objections in a second, but really just making sure that they're good to go. This is something that they actually want to do, something that they actually want to move forward with. So that way you can kind of pre-handle any like future problems that come up. Then you get into your pitch, right? So talking about the entire program, what it would do for them, bringing back their specific pain points and tailoring the offer towards them. So, hey, this would solve specific problem. We also solved it for another guy who was in your exact same spot. Social proofing, so that way they have somebody to relate to. They're like, okay, if that guy can do it, then I can do it. You know what I mean? Very, very valuable. Kind of painting the picture for them, saying, hey, this is exactly how the offer will get you to your goals. And then once you've kind of gotten the pitch out of the way, they feel good about it. You want to ask a heat check question. So like, how do you feel about this scale 1 out of 10? Do you actually believe this will help you? Things like that. What would make, like if they give you like an 8 out of 10, okay, well, what would make it a 10 for you? What would make it like an ideal program? Things like that. Just really giving the old heat check, making sure that they're good to go. Then you want to price drop. So once you drop the price, you really just want to shut up and let the silence do the talking. Because the moment you start talking like, oh, well, the reason it's this price is because of this, that, and the third, you're like giving them a reason as to why it's shit or like why it's not worth that money. So let them think, let the silence do the talking, because they're just going to start thinking. They might end up getting in price shock, but if you did a great job of getting them sold in the discovery before you actually get to all that, then that really shouldn't be a problem. But if it is, then you're going to have to handle some objections. So they're going to give you, oh, I need to think about it. I need to do this, that, all that. So handle those as well promptly and then close. But that's pretty much how the closing framework would work. Again, like getting the prospect to do all the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, you're just here to help them, genuinely help them and ask the right questions. But there's probably still one thing that you're concerned about. So like if objections come up, how the hell do I roll those? Well, here's how exactly you would. There's really three main reasons as to why these even come up in the first place. Number one is fear. Number two is logistics. And the easier one of the three is money. That's the last one. And 90% of all objections that prospects give you are really just smoke screens, and they usually just come down to either fear or logistics. And one of the best ways, and honestly, to this day, that I still use that literally has never failed me, is prospect identity shifting. So obviously, well, like me, for example, whenever I was working at Jimmy John's, like I said at the beginning of the video, obviously I wanted to be successful. I wanted to make my first 10K a month. I wanted to do good with high ticket sales. And an example of like prospect identity shifting is like getting me to understand the 2.0 version of myself. The 2.0 version of Jackson, what would he kind of do in this situation? What would his way of thinking be if he wanted to be successful, if he was successful? What would he do on this call? I'll get into that in a second. But here's some examples of like objections that'll come up on a call. So like I need to think about it, for example. This one is honestly just fear. Like I said, this is like a smoke screen. So you really want to find out the real reason as to why they want to think. And usually it always, like I said, comes down to fear. Like they don't want to take the leap. Maybe they're a little bit skeptical. So maybe you need to reinforce the fact that, this program will actually work for them, kind of get the tie down. So do you actually believe that this program, will help you, money aside? And then they're like, yeah, of course. And then kind of go into a little bit more detail on why specifically they think it'll work. And then you can even go a step further if you kind of want to take a little bit of a risk. You can tell them, hey, yeah, so I obviously want to give you the time to think about it. Let's book another call, follow up, give you a little bit of breathing room, make sure that you're good to go before you kind of dive headfirst into this. And then their guard's down completely because they're like, oh, thank God I'm getting another call, right? And then you ask it again. So just so I can get a better idea of where you're at before we hop on this next call, what exactly is it that you need to think about just so I can get prepped and make sure that we have everything done before we kind of jump on that next call? Then they're going to tell you exactly what they need to think about. Oh, like I just kind of am a little fearful about making this kind of decision. Then from there, now you know it's fear. What exactly are you fearful about? So now you're right back into the sale, right? You're right back into rolling the objections. Then you can hit them with the prospect identity shifting like I was talking about. So like this 2.0 version of yourself, do you think that he would let fear kind of dictate the outcome of where he wants to be? Or do you think that he would actually take this opportunity, run with it, and give it his all to get him to those goals that he was kind of talking about? So like then you bring back those goals that he told you about. Oh, I think he would do it. Okay, so if you were acting as this 2.0 version of yourself on this sales call, what kind of decision do you think that you would make in order to get to that position? Oh, I would do it. Okay, so what do you want to do, John? And then he's going to do it. Super simple. Too expensive. This one's more of like a logistics kind of thing. So if it's too expensive, they either don't have the money or they don't feel comfortable spending that money. And usually when you hear too expensive, you can always say, okay, too expensive compared to what? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And then you can give them like a simple analogy. So like if I were to tell you, hey, I need you to pay for this dinner. And I told them the dinner was $10,000. Yeah, that would probably be expensive. But then if I told them, hey, I'm going to sell this Ferrari to you for $10,000, do you think that's expensive? Right. And then obviously like, no, that's cheap, because now they understand the value of what they're getting out of this. They understand the value of that $10,000. With this, they're really just concerned about the big old number that you're dangling in front of them. Right. So you need to get them to see the value in what they're getting out of this, kind of reinforcing their goals, their pain, bringing up all those little things, and then getting them to understand, hey, this is something that we need to get over this hump to where like we can actually get to our goals. And again, prospect identity shifting. Number 3 is honestly one of the hardest objections to roll. And this is something you really need to pre-handle before it comes up, because like, let's say you're talking to a kid who's like 18 years old or like 17 years old, still lives with his parents, still in high school. He's gonna be like, oh, I need to go talk to my parents. Well, there's not really much that you can do about that, because now he's gonna tie down the fact that the decision has to go through his parents before he makes it. And then there's really no chance of him closing. So it's really important beforehand that you say, hey, so like when it comes to getting into something like this and making a change for the better and, improving your life specifically, is this, getting into something like this, something you need to talk to mom and dad about? So kind of like making them seem like, oh, I'm not a little kid anymore. I need to do this myself. And they'll be like, no, hell no. I don't need to talk to mom and dad. So now that's not going to come up. Very hard to roll. But if that did come up, I need to talk to my girlfriend, my partner. You'd really reinforce the fact that, hey, like this is a decision for you yourself. Do you think that if you made this right decision to actually move forward and you gave it your all and actually got to your goals, do you think that they would tell you no? Or another thing that you can say is like, are they where you want to be? Like, would you really take advice from somebody who's not where you want to be? Great example. No, I would never do that, right? So they're going to do the thinking for themselves and they're going to do it. Don't want to commit. For this one, I would use the skydiving analogy. So like, obviously they're like, okay, well, this is something that you want to do and really commit to. And then they're like, yeah. And they're okay, well, why do you don't even know if you could commit to it because you never even tried it. It's like skydiving, for example. Like, let's say, for example, you went up to skydive or this guy went up to skydive and he went all the way up there, got on the plane, was about to jump, but he didn't do it. He was too scared to take that leap forward and actually like fulfill or like the reason why he came up. And then you could tie that back to the current situation, saying this is kind of exactly where you're at. So where do you think you'll be if you actually never take that risk or like, make that jump? And they're gonna be like, oh, well, I'll stay in the same. Okay, well, do you really want to do that? I mean, like, what would life? And then you can kind of get back into the repercussions of like what it would look like if they stayed stuck, right? And obviously they don't want that. Then again, prospect identity shifting. Okay, 2.0 version of yourself, what would he do? And then repeat the same thing. Skepticism, scammed. I like to use like the ex-girlfriend analogy for this one. So like, oh, have you dated somebody before? Yeah, of course, right? I mean, you look like a type of, you could, maybe make them laugh a little bit, kind of diffuse the sales tension a little bit. And then you kind of say, oh, well, okay, like you've had an ex-girlfriend. So do you think that girl stopped you from looking into other partners or like looking for a better like partner or whatever? No, of course not. Okay, well, why not? Oh, well, because like, I don't want to base that off of one bad experience, one bad apple. And you're like, exactly, right? So this is the exact same thing here. So if you've been scammed before, that doesn't mean that every single other program that you invest into is going to be a scam, right? You're not going to let one bad apple dictate like the outcome of your life or where you want to be. Then they're going to start thinking about their goals again. And then go, okay, dope, let's do it. Guarantee. These are for people who have major limiting beliefs, who don't even believe in themselves. So obviously like the offer that you're selling for is probably gonna have a lot of testimonials, all that. There's never really a guarantee in life. You're never gonna get a guarantee being an entrepreneur. That's just kind of how it works. They should know that getting into that. So for that one, it's really just making sure, hey, like the only guarantee that you can give yourself is by actually trying something and giving it your all and saying, hey, like there's really not much more I could have done if it did fail. But like if that did happen and they gave it their all, there really isn't a reason why they wouldn't make it. I need to do more research. Smoke screen. So this one's like, oh, well, like I just need to. They're already on the call. They know exactly what the model is or whatever they're trying to buy. They do not need to do more research. It's just a smoke screen, more like fear, exactly like number one. So you would do the exact same thing for that. All this stuff that I just mentioned to you is exactly how I got to 10K a month in 90 days. This is quite literally all that I implemented. This is everything that I would ever use on all my sales calls. And if you apply this entire system, you can literally replicate the exact same results. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the free training video. I hope that you got a ton of value out of it and exactly how to start high ticket sales, how to make your first dollar. Now, if you're looking for more of like a hands-on approach, you're wanting some help actually getting into this space, I'm gonna leave a little link in the description that you can apply to work with us. Somebody from my team will reach out to you once you complete that, if that's something that you're wanting to do. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.